Welcome back to the channel and my SRS Summoner Minion Witch build guide. This is the final part of this build. I think it's number 4 or something out of the videos that I've produced. If you're interested in the early leveling process, into how this build evolved from nothing to something, hopefully, then please refer to those videos on my channel. All links to the previous videos, to the chapters in this video, are in the description below and in the timeline of this video. So, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to show you my witch at level 67. This is early, kind of scratching the surface of the end game build state. It's very end game worthy, but it's in solo self-found gear. That's why resistances and some other things are not kept and not optimized. The stats are not optimized, but I will give you a guide and a vector forward. This build is designed for beginners and casuals. It is derived from some more pro builds, but I have followed those builds myself, and I can tell you, before you ask why listen to your guide, Gyro, you're using someone else's guide. Of course I am. But those people are never descending to the level of real beginners and real casuals. They don't explain things simply and only what you need to know. They kind of assume you know, or they just, it's a curse of knowledge. I don't blame them, but that's why my guides are different. They come down to the average Joe and Jane who may be very, very new to the game. That's why you should keep watching if this is your cup of tea. Once again, chapters are in the timeline, so if you are attention span starved person, I don't judge. But I'm trying to make it easy for you as much as I can anyway, so please use the chapters. Let's begin. Let's address very quickly the elephant in the room of clearly uncapped resistances and rather embarrassing stats, as somebody might be smart ass enough to point out to me. Before you do, please understand that this is not an optimized build. This always has been a proof of concept build, as most of my builds are. I wanted to see if it can work, if I can enjoy it on my own budget, and if going all out damage, especially in the leveling process as opposed to defenses and optimizing that gear, is going to get me there. And it did. Did I die? Yes, I died many times. I'm not ashamed to say it. I wasn't very careful, mind you, so maybe half of those deaths have been my own dumbness. As far as the stats on gear, generally what you should be pursuing, I would not even try to beef up much of the life, because there are not that many nodes in the passive skill tree, and gearing is slightly different here. I'm not beefing up on life or on armor for that matter, like I would have done in Path of Exile 1. Here we are going to be raising as much of a mana pool as we can, because we will take eventually Mind Over Matter. Mind Over Matter is the node that takes quite a lot of damage out of your mana first before it hits your life, in case you're a beginner, and this is who this guide ultimately is for, as well as increasing the energy shield. As a final point, later into the end game, the kind of the vector for further progression is that for defensive layers we also are going to be adding block chance. You are going to be raising intellect, but you're going to be also balancing with dexterity and strength that will need to be at a certain level before certain gear can be equipped and certain gems can operate the way that they need to operate. We are relying obviously on the freebie of a skeletal warrior, who are my tanks. They are coming from a scepter, from the rattling scepter. This is your main. Rattling scepters are, if I could point out one item that you are always on the lookout for, you're always picking them up from the ground, you're always identifying those blue items, it's those scepters, mate. You could even leave others, even though you shouldn't. You should pick up that gear if you can and sell it for currency or disenchant. But rattling scepters are having a modifier. As you can see, I'm quite lucky on this one to have +4 to level of all minion skills. Rattling scepters are your friend. You get 2 free bodyguards. They are tanking skeletal warriors. All I'm doing with those skeletal warriors is I'm making sure that they disable the enemies as much as possible. They make their life as miserable as possible. So they are blinding them, maiming them, and they're finishing them off with Culling Strike below a certain level of their health. But the main dishing out of the damage is happening by the Raging Spirits that get summoned by the Flame Wall. You throw a Flame Wall, it summons Raging Spirits, they kill everything, as well as your friends Skeletal Arsonists. Skeletal Arsonists are not available to you very, very, very early in the game, but they become available rather quickly, and that's where you're going to put everything you can into those Skeletal Arsonists. I have right now 6 of them running with me, which is great, and in order for that to happen, you need a lot of Spirit. So Spirit is the king of them all, really, ultimately, as a specific stat that you need to look for on the gear. Wherever you can raise Spirit, whether it's on the scepter, whether it's on your amulet, as in this case. Can you see, like, even in solo self-found, I was very lucky with this amulet to have +10 to spirit and then +45 to spirit as well. That's amazing. As well as you often get spirit, maybe not here, not in this example, but on your chest armor, wherever you can. Spirit is your friend, because we are only as strong as the army of minions that's protecting us, mate. That's as simple as it is. Flame Wall, like I said, you have Flame Wall, you level Flame Wall, it's supported, and I'll show you the support gems in a second. However, Flame Wall is not the ultimate damage dealing thing. It is doing damage, but it's not what we rely on. It's just spawning Raging Spirits. That's what it does, really, and debuffing enemies if it can. Infernal Hound comes from our Ascendancy, and like I already explained to you, it offsets some of the damage. So it takes 20% of damage away from you. So my Infernal Hound right now is a mid shield to increase its more life so that it can absorb more damage from me. It also has Elemental Army support on it to make sure that it has more elemental resistances, hence lives longer. Raging Spirits are my bread and butter. Raging Spirits are supported by Feeding Frenzy to do more damage, and Raging Spirits are supported by Fire Penetration to make sure that they eat through the fire resistance of the enemies, as well as Execute. They do more damage against enemies that are on low on life, and low on life is pretty good. It's 1/3 of life remaining. It's not like a fraction of life, but it's 1/3. That's pretty good. Okay. Flame Wall, like I said, we are casting it as fast as possible with Arcane Tempo. We are doing the circular things, which is Fortress, and Spell Cascade simply allows us to spawn more of those circles everywhere with single cast. Skeletal Arsonist is number 2 after Raging Spirits in terms of doing damage. Skeletal Arsonist is boosted by obviously +4 to all minion skills. Cannot repeat it enough. It is a very, very desirable stat for you to look on every scepter you pick up. Supported by Martial Tempo to attack more often. Fire Infusion to do more damage as fire. And Scattershot, even if it reduces the actual damage that the projectile does, it does more projectiles, so it all adds up and contributes to a much better situation. Pain Offering, so you basically throw Flame Walls and Pain Offering 99% of the time. Pain Offering is a skeleton on a spike that grants temporarily to all of your minions increased damage by almost half, 42% in this relatively leveled up gem state. Do I need to say more? It's amazing. It increases the attack speed and cast speed of the minions, as well as gives them more flat out damage. It's like most amazing, most useful buff. You throw Flame Walls, you throw Pain Offering. That's how you level through everything, basically. Flammability you save for tough rares, very, very tough rares, and bosses, obviously. It reduces their fire resistance. Need I say more? You just help your minions chew through them much faster. Flammability is rather mana intensive, rather mana hungry skill, so you will see that mana drops quite substantially if you use Flammability, so use it sparingly. Skeletal Cleric is the latest addition to my build. Skeletal Cleric simply helps revive and heal your skeletons, such as Skeletal Arsonists, if they die. And they will die because there is a lot of environmental damage, there is only so much you can do. Supported by Last Gasp to stay alive for as long as possible, even if they are killed. Yeah, so it gives them a chance to heal a bit more, or maybe raise someone before they die. That's great. And Ingenuity also reduces their cooldown recovery rate by 1/3, which means that they can raise their allies a lot more often. That's it for the skills, very simple. For gearing, once again, I said it's the best effort, mate. It's the life, of course, if you can increase your life. It's energy shield, of course. It's mana pool as much as you can. And it's spirit. That is main things that you go for. This is a great charm. It's a charm that makes you immune to poison periodically. Poisons, like any dots, are going to kill you the fastest because you're a very skinny witch. You're very skinny, so your death will come fast if you don't stem that bleeding or deal with that poison. So this is one of those great things that makes you poison immune if things went really, really wrong for you. And flasks, all I'm gonna say to you is this: always prefer flasks, both mana and life, the ones that regain charges per second. These ones regain 0.25 charges per second. I haven't seen flasks that regain more than that. Maybe there are some, but I haven't seen any in the whole game. This is great because if you are a little low on damage and you're dancing around the boss and the fight goes for a very long time, which happened in the early game more so than in the late game for this character, It's good to not, even if you don't have other trash to kill in order to replenish these flasks, this will basically allow you to have something to heal yourself with after, I don't know, 5 minutes of dancing around the boss and not having any other targets to kill. Same with mana. That's probably all I'm gonna say to you on the gearing aspects of this particular build. Now, very quickly, passive skills. I'm going to go fast, but you can always pause and inspect, because we don't have PoB, path of building. I cannot give you a link to a build. I have to go like this, unfortunately. I apologize. All right, we'll come back to the Ascendancy in a second. You start here from this level. You go spell and minion damage. Spell and minion damage, spell and minion damage. You go up to raw destruction, obviously. You go here to increasing mana regeneration rate and pure energy in the second half of the game, not straight away. But that is more of a leveling guide. That's what previous parts of this guide video are for. Look them up on my channel if you're really interested. This branch, you will take it now that you start investing into defensive layers towards the end game, but not straight away. Straight away, you just go up. You just go up to Power of the Dead. And then you go left. So forget about the right branching for now. Just go left over here. And that's where you would go back down to the Deadly Swarm. To increase minion damage, you're taking all minion damage nodes. If ever in doubt, you simply go into the top right corner of this interface, and in the search bar you type minion. First of all, it will start glowing all minion skills, yes? But what you would look for is minion damage. And as you can see, minion damage nodes are all glowing. So if ever in doubt, my friend, and I hope this helps you, give me a like if it does, this is how, if in doubt, you can always find a very simplistic path of where you need to pass to, especially early in the game, before defensives become very important. Now you will ask me, Gyro, when do defensives become important, mate? They become important from about level 50. It's as simple as that. So maybe a little earlier, let's be conservative and say 45. From about level 45, you should start looking for nodes, like I mentioned to you, the ones that start giving you mana, start giving you energy shield. You start then thinking of going right-hand side as opposed to left-hand side of this build. Makes sense? Okay. There is also some respect that happened in the past, of course, and I described it in the previous guides, in the parts of the guide, where we went all the way up here, and then we even went right, but via this node, the one that I respect, as you can see. None of these nodes here in the lower right corner were taken before, and I know I'm covering them with my head, I'm sorry, so I'm going to move this a bit. So we went all the way up, and via this node, we went up to here to take extra minion damage and faster revival of minions as well. I used to have this Grave Digger taken, but now, as you can see, it's less important to me. And after the respec in the second half of the game, that's where I took away this node in the center, the one that used to join this, and I went bridging from the lower end over here, and that's how I went towards the nodes like Mana Blessing, like Insightfulness, like Melding, to increase my mana pool, to assist with Mind Over Matter, which we're going to see in a second, as well as increase the energy shield. Makes sense? Okay. Now, left-hand side to the damage again. We went left, we've taken these nodes that are most important, we start branching left. We're taking Restless Dead, of course, we're taking Growing Swarm and any other nodes that are increasing their attack speed and damage. Needless to say why, this is awesome. We continue, we're not branching right yet, we're going left, left, left and up. Mind Over Matter I recommend not taking until about level 50, until you have decent mana pool, until you have other damage layers, damage mitigation layers such as energy shield. Otherwise, very simple, my friend, you will be out of mana most of the time. You will take damage, AoE damage, other kind of damage, and you will simply be running without of mana all the time. And without of mana, guess what? You cannot summon Raging Spirits, you are basically dead in the water. You need to be able to cast. If you don't have mana, you can't cast. So my main advice to you here, that is less obvious, that others won't tell you, is as attractive as it is, as important as it becomes for the end game. Don't take it until much later before you're ready to hit end game. Again, damage. We are branching here to the top. That was our first path. Our initial path was all the way up, then left, then this cluster of damage, then up here, to this jewel, then up to here to make sure that minions have reduced reservation, and we take a few other damage nodes for the minions. Of course, this is a great increase of damage, but also with reduced reservation, minions will cost less spirit, you can summon more arsonists, Bob's your uncle, you will feel very good. These are main damage nodes, and everything else that you can see, sorry, this branch, long branch left is also damage nodes actually. So we are going to Bringer of Order, minions do extra 25% of damage, that's amazing, plus these nodes give a lot of damage. This whole thing is worth a lot of minion damage, make sure you take that. And then, like I said, once you're done with damage, damage is your first thing. Once you're done with damage, that's when you start going right, that's when you start giving minions resistance, as well as a little bit also increased damage, so this is actually also a damage cluster. But this one is not, this one is your defensive layers, it's increase of your elemental resistances and maximum energy shield. This is where you leave this guy, but you start taking these nodes that I've already shown you, such as Insightfulness, Melding, and Mana Blessing, and eventually also Mind Over Matter. At the very least, this is what the build looks like at level 67. Is it super optimal? Evidently not, but at the same time, it's definitely okay to start end game mapping with. And that's all I'm trying to give you. Finally, your first couple of relatively easy Ascendancy journeys when you go through the Trials of Chaos and Trial of Secamus. First item you will take is Loyal Hellhound. That's the infernal doggy that I was talking about. That takes 20% of damage of the hits from its life before you. It's fantastic, it helps, it runs around, it looks good. Second, you go over here and you take Altered Flesh. That's another one that I described to you, that any other damage is taken as fire damage, which is why fire resistance becomes more important than other resistances. Finally, when you are going to eventually do 2 more trials, which I couldn't be bothered doing just yet, you will be taking some of these ones. You will be choosing Reservation of Life to increase your spirit and maximum energy shield. I am guessing that you'll be working with Baydat's Will and Baydat's Hand, but I have not tested this personally. These are my kind of things that my eye is on, but not there yet. So that's as far as your ascendancy is concerned, my friends. Now, what remains? A couple of tips and call-outs. I know the video is already long enough, so you probably have either used the chapters, I hope so, because that's what I recommended for you to do, or I don't know, maybe you already dropped out. Couple of other tips, like I mentioned to you, I published a video just not long ago. I'm gonna save you the time and just point you at that video. That video is about my journey through the campaign to the end game and my early impressions of the end game. I said that it's a bit meh, and I still think that the end game is a bit meh, not as a conclusive thing about Path of Exile 2, but about this stage of early access beta. Why? Well, watch the video and you will find out, so it will give you a few tips there, but I'm just going to tell you, reiterate, main tips are, do not face tank. You are not a tank, okay? You're not a tank, you don't have enough defensive layers at this stage of the game. We start building them out. Of course, you can take a hit or two, but not too much. So your main deaths will come from poisons, from bleeds, and from massive hits that you didn't roll out of. You need to be comfortable rolling out of. Outsource as much damage as you can to your minions. Yes, they follow you, so you have to lead the way, but don't just stand there. If once the enemy engaged and you led the way and now your minions have engaged and you started casting, take a few steps back, make sure that the minions are well ahead of you. That will save you a lot of deaths. If you stand there and bang and hope that your minions simply kill them before they kill you, you may die more often than you expect to die. These are main advices from me, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed this for what it's worth. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad that I'm finishing this guide because I'm a bit of a completionist. Even if it takes me a long time, I'd rather close off this book before I start another. Speaking of that, I am going to be, rather than pushing on this build and perfecting it and that kind of stuff, I'm a bit bored of it. I am going to look now at other builds. I probably will revisit my Lightning Arrow Deadeye, and I probably will try maybe playing a little bit with Spark Sorceress. Thank you for watching, give the video a like if I deserve it, and I'll talk to you next time about something else Path of Exile related, no doubt. Bye for now.